Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Looking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and plenty to get to. The normal suspects, Saints and LSU, and a lot of it. We'll also dip back into talking about the national college football landscape with J.D. Piquel from 1-3 Sports coming up here in 15 minutes. It's a What If Wednesday. We'll get to some of that in 30 minutes. Matthew Burney was out at practice today. I was not unable to get out there. Had a meeting to get to this morning, so no football practice for me. So we'll learn from Matthew Burney what went on. And plus, he was there when Joe Sloan met with the media about 2 hours ago. So we'll have Matthew Burney on at the end of hour number one. We'll meet the freshman in hour number two. There was a commitment to Texas. LSU was in the mix. Some good news out of Cape Cod that we'll get to in hour number two. And Matthew Parris covers the Saints for The Advocate and Times Pick, and he is out in Irvine. He'll talk with us an hour and a half from right now, coming up at 2:30. And a lot of what we'll do with Matthew is what we'll lead the show with today. There are multiple reports coming out of the Saints beat. Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football, John Hendricks from Saints News Network, Luke Johnson, who we have on Thursdays, all reporting that the Saints are having a visitor at camp today. And that is free agent safety Justin Simmons. Reports are that he's out in Irvine today, is meeting with the organization, and that there is mutual interest there, and they're going to kind of explore the opportunity to bring Justin Simmons to the black and gold. Justin Simmons is essentially the best free agent on the market currently. There aren't a ton of them, and he is the best one. He has been a second-team All-Pro 4 times. 4 times. He made the Pro Bowl last year. He was a second-team All-Pro last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. We're talking about in the last 5 seasons, he has been a second-team All-Pro 4 of them at the safety position for Denver. He's 30 years old, and Denver let him go basically as a cap casualty. They did not have enough money to pay him. And so the Saints are kicking the tires here. And initially, of course, if you've got the best free agent on the market, that's someone you're going to express interest in. I think that makes a lot of sense. But as always, with the interest come the terms. What does this look like? And you have heard me sing this chorus for 8 months since the Saints finished up last regular season. What do the Saints have to get? 2 things. 2 things. Younger and cheaper. Younger and cheaper, younger and cheaper, younger and cheaper. Well, a 30-year-old safety who was a cap casualty with another organization doesn't sound cheaper and is certainly not younger. So, on its face, I would look at this and go, this is not where I think the Saints need to go. However, if you can get a 1 or 2 year deal done for a reasonable price, I will change my tune. I don't think the Saints are in a position, based on what they have done in this offseason and where they are mentally, I don't think the Saints are in a mode to pay a 30-year-old safety about to play his age 31 season to pay him $11, $12 million a year for 4 or 5 years. Like, they're not going to do that, obviously. So I'm interested in this. This would make the Saints a better football team tomorrow if he gets inked today. Because you're talking about a guy who is one of the 5 or 6 best safeties in the NFL right now. That makes you better. And that's awesome. So in that way, I'm all for the Saints going in and trying to make this and get this done. The Saints have somewhere between $11 and $13 million to spend under the salary cap. And if you want to dump a 1-year contract in front of an all-pro type safety, good. That's awesome. That makes you better. But I do have to look at this from a bigger perspective, and it makes me think, maybe this is an indication they just don't love the way Jordan Howden's working out. Maybe not. I could be. I'm speculating here. But we asked Kat Terrell on Monday about Jordan Howden. She said, yeah, it's kind of a quiet camp. Not hurt. He's out there, not making huge plays, not getting cooked. But maybe he's not performing the way that they had hoped. And what is Jordan Howden? Well, he's young and cheap. He is young and cheap. And that's part of that foundation I'm hoping the Saints can build upon. And if you're suggesting he's not working out, well, that's a negative. But maybe, as we continue to speculate, the Saints are just going, well, Howden looks pretty good, and he's still young, and he's still cheap, and it doesn't mean we have to cut him if we bring in an all-pro safety in Justin Simmons. So we'll just get better and let Jordan Howden sit another year, play some reps, learn behind two of the best safeties of the last 10 years. That's fair to say, Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Simmons. Maybe that's the way they want to go. The other piece of this is, well, if you spend the money on Simmons, where can you not spend money elsewhere? Like, what positions on the field for New Orleans make sense for them to spend some money on? We kind of think running back might be one. Kendre Miller's still not out there practicing. Like, Alvin Kamara is in the last year of his deal. Jamal Williams was a no-show last year. Like, do we need to go kick the tires on some other running backs and spend some money there? I don't know. Do you have a third and fourth receiver? Are you comfortable with Cedric Wilson? Is A.T. Perry making the strides you want? Are you going to let an undrafted rookie in Tipton make this team and be an impact player? Or do you need to go sign another wide receiver and use some of the money there? I don't know. Are you completely satisfied with your offensive line right now? Not hearing great stuff about Trevor Penning. Ryan Ramchik's probably not coming back. Okay, do we still need to sign some guys off the street to play offensive line? There are a lot of things that you have to weigh when looking at whether or not you're going to sign Justin Simmons to be a starting safety on your team in 2024. And ultimately, I settle on this. And trust me, this is someone who's been sitting back in Baton Rouge the entire time they're out in Irvine. I hadn't seen one practice rep. Like, I don't know what's going on out there. That's why we have a different guest every single day to tell you what's going on out there. And we'll do that in an hour and 20 minutes with Matthew Paris. But my big picture deal here is, as long as we're talking a 1 or 2 year deal with manageable money on the deal, this is a good idea for New Orleans. Your secondary is already good. Improve it. Try to make this a top 7 or 8 defense in the NFL. Hope there's a revitalization of the offense and that you're better than everyone thinks. Because we've gone through all these offseason lists and we've seen everywhere the Saints are ranked somewhere between 23rd and 30th in the NFL. Nobody thinks they're the worst team in the league, but nobody thinks they're in the top half. And if Chase Young's a hit, and if you can put an all-pro type safety back there in the backfield, and Marshawn Lattimore gets healthy, and Demario Davis doesn't take a step back, and Brian Brzee does take a step forward, and all these ifs and ifs and ifs happen, well, I can paint the picture the defense is going to be pretty good. What I don't want to have happen here is this to become a 4-year deal with a lot of money deferred back into the back end of the contract, and then you're back into the same old mistakes that you've been making for the last 5 years. There's no indication the Saints are going to do that, so I'm not forecasting that's going to happen. Ultimately, I think that the Saints should make this happen on a very short-term deal and hope that Jordan Howden is progressing the way that they had hoped. They just feel like this is an upgrade and they've got some money to spend. It may just be that simple. We can talk through every single aspect of this potential deal, and ultimately what you settle on is it's probably more good than not good. So no news to report. If it does happen over the next hour and the Saints do come to terms with the contract with Justin Simmons, probably Matthew Paris won't be able to join us because he'll have to write some things on that and cover that for his actual employer instead of us, who he just comes on and gives a little info to. But I thought we should start things off there with that news of the day. The Saints are very much in conversation with Justin Simmons. Hopefully they can bring him into New Orleans on a manageable contract because he is a very, very good player, even if he's getting a little bit older. Could put you in a position where you got a 31 and a 30-year-old safety, which is not necessarily the way everybody looks to go, but there's reason to believe this guy's still got plenty in the tank, considering he's been a second-team All-Pro the last 3 seasons. Demario Davis is significantly older than him in NFL terms, and he's still playing at a very elite level as well. So some guys just age a little bit better. Hopefully Justin Simmons is one of those guys, and hopefully the Saints can bring him into New Orleans. If you're looking for Saints news, you can always find it with us, Hunt on Saints on YouTube. Hunt on Saints is your channel, all black and gold football all year round. Subscribe to the channel. You can get those videos sent to your homepage each and every day. There's Saints content every day now, so jump in if you're ready to get rolling with some football. Still plenty to get to here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We'll do some What If Wednesday coming up in 20 minutes. Matthew Bruni's going to join us later on in this hour, so stick with us. We'll come back with J.D. Pickell talking national college football on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com. Brand new website. It is fantastic. Got both phone numbers up there. One of them they've had for 40 years. That's how long Neil and Melissa have been running the shop over there at Boudreaux's Electrical. And for 40 years, you can find them at 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. If you're in the 225 area code, don't let 985 scare you off. They've got a Gonzales location as well, and they've been servicing Baton Rouge for a very, very long time. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing the power is not going to go out. I mean, we got a hellacious storm that rolled through on Sunday. If that knocked your power out, it's just annoying that 4.5 hours where the power's out and the house gets all hot, can't watch TV, and it's just a miserable existence. Protect yourself from it. Boudreaux's Electrical can do that, and every single Generac home standby generator that Boudreaux's Electrical sells and installs for you comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty based on the type of generator that you purchase. 7 to 10 years of peace of mind and knowing, hey, don't have to worry about power outages under my roof. That's a very, very powerful thing, and you can get it with folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. 985-397-1562. Check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. Tigers back on the practice field, and we'll hear from Joe Sloan. Saints on the practice field as well. We'll have a report. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So we got water polo on in here in the Olympic Games. Looks like USA and Australia going at it, and it looks like they're in some sort of PKs here. There's not a lot that Olympic athletes do that I think I can handle. I think I got a chance to score on one of these PKs. I'm certainly not going to go 80%, but they're like, what, 15 feet away humming a ball? Like, I could get that in the net. You just threw it right off the goalie's
right on his head.
Well, if you throw it right off the goalie's face, you're not going to score. But, like, I give myself a chance there.
Here's the thing, and I've noticed this with penalties and soccer. Oop, I thought that was over. I noticed this with soccer as well. It looks with the angle, it looks closer than it is. So if you actually look at it,
I think he's 15 feet.
I'm telling you, it's further than it looks, because when you watch penalties in soccer, it looks they're like not that far away. It's actually not as close as you think it is.
I don't think I can score a PK in soccer because I can't.
No, you can't kick it. Yeah,
but I think I got a chance of scoring on these.
Okay,
PKs.
but what if you have to like tread water for 30 minutes before?
Then I would die.
Yeah,
it would be a casualty, funeral, casket, the whole thing.
Yeah,
we would hate to see that. JD Piquel, are you a water polo player?
Dude, water polo would eat my lunch. You know what though? I think handball. Olympic handball, give me a few months. Like, give me 4 to 6 months, and I think I'm a problem for you.
Okay. Look, we've been talking about what Olympic events we could and couldn't do all week. I think basically you can just kind of settle on the fact that I can't do any of them. But I got a shot at scoring on these water polo goals. That's all I'm saying here. Let's talk some football, JD. It's about that time. Are you buying into the narrative that Georgia and Ohio State are a lot better than everybody else?
I would buy into the narrative that they have better rosters than, call it, 99% of the country. I think Oregon is getting vastly overlooked. Like, I think Oregon's going to win the Big Ten. I think Ohio State's great, but I think Oregon's going to win that conference, and I think they're going to beat them October 12th as we sit here in August when they go to Austin. So I really like Ohio State. I am still a little bit wait and see on Will Howard. I think he's an upgrade from Kyle McCord. I think he gives you a much higher ceiling as a team. But if I had to pick an edge right now, I'd go Oregon over Ohio State, both at a quarterback and a line of scrimmage level.
That's interesting. What do you think is the next 10 years? That's hard to do in this era of college sports, but the next 10 years for Oregon, I mean, do they elevate because they're moving to a conference that's got more money, although it's a little bit more competitive? Do they kind of stay the same, or do they kind of get swallowed up by the fact that they got to contend with more big boys in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think the conference probably in the long run will help because they'll be on one of those big conferences that'll be relevant, and they won't run into that issue that the ACC could or the Big 12 could when it comes to like the playoff discussion. I think Oregon's just built for modern college football regardless of what conference they're in. We know that Phil Knight is writing a fair amount of checks when it comes to the resources, standpoint for Oregon, that they're not going to lose when it comes to NIL, when it comes down to NIL, if they choose that to be the case. I really think that the way that Dan Lanning is building that whole roster, and I think the way that he recruits coast to coast, and he's not worried about jumping on a plane and going and seeing a guy in Texas or going out to the Southeast, like just the dog recruiter he is and the staff that he's built and the way that he's proven he can hire coordinators. I think Oregon's going to win a national title in the next 5 years. I really do.
Interesting. I don't mean to be morbid here, but I mean, we can just face the facts. Like, Phil Knight's not a spring chicken at this point. Like, he's north of 80.
Yeah.
And do we think that once he passes, like, things change for Oregon? I mean, we're looking at T. Boone Pickens down there at Oklahoma State, and I don't know how big a difference that's made since he passed away. But, like, how big a deal is Phil Knight to whatever Oregon athletics are?
That's a really good question that I don't know all the answers to, because I guess the question you'd ask is, well, then who's in charge after Phil Knight?
Who's running Knight?
I transparently don't know. But I'd imagine as long as there's someone in Phil Knight's camp, whether he is around or not, for lack of a better phrasing, I think there's going to be a lot of money still going towards Oregon football. I think Dan Lanning will have all the resources he needs and then some to compete at the highest level. And so I think obviously there's a strong push here from Phil Knight. I think he's been pretty transparent about that he wants to see a national title for the Ducks, but before he is no longer around. But I do think that like resources, as long as that Nike and that O are tied together, which I can't imagine they ever wouldn't be, I think they're going to be more than capable of getting done whatever they want to get done on the resources side.
What's next for Michigan and Sharon Moore?
I think this year is so interesting because we did our college football playoff picks before this whole, Jim Harbaugh no show or show clause or whatever, and there's more Connor Stallion stuff going on. And I picked Michigan to be left out of the college football playoff. I just think from a roster standpoint, I don't know enough about them right now, and I feel better about other teams. So I have them on the outside looking in, probably in that 9-3 territory. I mention all that because if I had made the picks after the Connor Stallion stuff bubbled back up and Sharon Moore is getting thrown in the mix again, and it's, there's a lot of stuff being said about Michigan right now publicly, I wonder how much more of a chip that puts on their shoulder. And I think that's probably dangerous for the rest of college football to give them any extra motivation they already probably had a lot of. I still think they're probably a year or two away from having a team that's going to compete for another national title, but we know they're going to have the same DNA they did last year when it comes to running the football, playing really good defense. If you could tell me they have an A- to B+ quarterback play for the majority of next season, I think they're a playoff team. I'll go ahead and say they're on the outside looking in right now. But to answer your question, long term, Michigan's going to be more than fine. Sharon Moore, I think, is going to be the guy for them to keep them a tier 1 college football team across the country.
Okay, because I've publicly talked, I've chastised North Carolina and Duke for hiring the guy next to the guy on the bench in basketball when they feel like they could go flex their muscles and go hire somebody, and they just took the guy that sat next to the legend. And it feels like Michigan kind of did the same thing. And I was going to ask if you think Sharon Moore is ready for this, and they did a good job in keeping him and kind of keeping the continuity. Sounds like you're pro there.
I am very pro Sharon Moore. I think there's also a little bit of a misconception, and I don't know without a shadow of a doubt, but I feel like a decent feel on this. I think Sharon Moore was really involved in last year's national title run. I think Jim Harbaugh gets a ton of credit, and he should, for the culture and the process and the way of doing things. But I've talked to folks rather close to Michigan that feel, I would say, as much, if not more confident in their process with Sharon Moore there. The thing that I was told was there was nobody that could tear up a schedule before the schedule was about to be put into place for the day or for the practice or for whatever than Jim Harbaugh. And that checks out. He is beats to his own drum. He's unique. He's quirky. He's all those things, and some of that probably made him successful. But when it comes to the things we talk about Michigan being great at, which is doing it their way, trusting their process, sticking to the game plan, I think Sharon Moore is going to be that to a T. And that's not to speak ill of Jim Harbaugh by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Sharon Moore and the process in place that they're going to follow, he was, I think, a massive part of putting that together last year for the national title team and will be a large part of it going forward, obviously, as the head coach.
Let's stay in the Big Ten. James Franklin's teams are always good. They're never great. Do you think that changes in an era where 12 teams now get into the playoff? They may be able to still take that one on the chin in October against one of the big boys, but show up in December and maybe win a game on their home field. I mean, how do you feel about the 12-team playoff affecting Penn State?
The thing is, it absolutely should. If we had gone to 12 teams instead of going to 4 teams with the original playoff model, Penn State would have 6 college football playoff appearances.
Yeah.
They would have made the dance 6 times, which is crazy to think about. My concern is I don't know how much better that offense is getting. And I love Coach Colton Necky, the new OC there coming over from Kansas. I think he's going to do a great job. I just don't know how much personnel he has to work with. Who's going to be the guy going deep for Drew Aller? Who's popping the top on the defense? I have reservations about that. And so my concern is Penn State drops the game to Ohio State, and let's say they drop another one to someone they shouldn't. Let's call it a Wisconsin. Let's call it a West Virginia. If you're 10-2 and you're Penn State, and what I think is going to happen in the SEC is there is just a line out the door of 10-2 teams, whether it be an LSU, whether it be a Tennessee. The 10-2 with a loss to a West Virginia or a Wisconsin, to pair that with an Ohio State loss, pales in comparison to a loss with Georgia and Alabama if you're Tennessee, or LSU having a loss to, let's call it, Alabama and someone else in the SEC. Like, I just think the reference points for them within the Big Ten, we talk about how easy their schedule is this year. I think that actually hurts them in this 12-team model if they end up at 10-2. So I'm going to have them at the outside looking in with 10-2.
USC was the big dog for an entire half of the country, basically, for like 15 years. And they kind of been a forgotten team. Now they jump in with the huge brands, and they're really not even the most attractive team that's moving over, but based on what Oregon and Washington have done the last couple of years. So what's on Lincoln Riley's plate here? We'll certainly talk more about that roster when we get to game time for LSU in week 1. But, like, big picture, like, what is USC's situation in the college football landscape?
My question about USC is, it's obviously the defense, right? Like, we're all going to talk about that. But I think we go year over year looking at what USC's done, and we're slowly but surely stripping away variables to where, like, if USC isn't drastically improved this year defensively, you have nowhere to point the finger but at Lincoln Riley. So what do you do from there? I don't know. But, like, we look at what happened the season before 2022. Okay, they go to the portal, they get a bunch more talent, you know, and I guess it was post 2022, excuse me. Get a bunch more talent after the Tulane Bowl off. They add Bear Alexander. They revamp the defensive line with other personnel like Anthony Lucas from A&M. And so, okay, the players have to be the fix, right? Defense still struggles with better players. Okay, it must be the DC. Alex Grinch, you're out of there. We got a new defensive staff. Like, if it's not the defensive staff and the players are improved, I think you can only point the finger at Lincoln Riley. And I've kind of gone to bat for him a few times, as I think that there's something to be said for him being an offensive guy. And, you know, you're still the CEO, you're still responsible for the defense. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I think he's an offensive guy, and I give him some credit there. But if it's not better this year, it doesn't have to be fixed, just be better this year. I think you point to him and say, all right, you know, what's the deal here? How do we fix this?
What do you think about Miller Moss?
I like Miller Moss. I'm probably my thing, Hunt, is like, we have these bowl games, and that's the last data point we all get. It's the last snapshot, and so we all just get absolutely inebriated on what we saw from the bowl game. Like, same thing with Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold played poorly. We're all like, Oklahoma and Jackson Arnold's going to be terrible. I like Miller Moss. I don't know if I like him as much as maybe the rest of America likes him because of what they saw in the bowl game. But I think at the end of the day, like, it's fair to give the benefit of the doubt to Lincoln Riley on offense. As much as we talk about his defense, dude knows quarterbacks, dude knows offense, and they're going to be in position to, I think, score a lot of points, regardless of the conference. So I like Miller Moss. I'm probably not giving him the Heisman Trophy as we sit here in August, but, you know, I have been wrong before, so we'll see if history repeats itself.
Well, LSU's going to try to do their part coming up on the day before Labor Day out in Vegas. All right, it's camp. Everybody's in camp. We're going to do this every Wednesday. Tell everybody where they can find your stuff and what y'all got going on over the next couple of weeks before we get into games.
Hunt, just getting the text from you yesterday, man. It was like, you're ready to get back to it. I was like, man, we're so back. We're so back. But, yeah, if you want to consume our content when we're not on the air with y'all, go over to the On3 YouTube channel. You can find The Hard Count, which is the show that I do there. Or you type in The Hard Count with J.D. Piquel on your podcast platforms, and we'll pop up in the queue for you there. But, man, it's officially football season now that I'm getting to jump back on here with you, man. So thank you.
We'll do it again next week, man. Thanks, J.D.
Thanks, Hunt.
He's J.D. Piquel, host of The Hard Count on 3. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. It's all college football all the time over there, and we're fired up to get that back rolling each and every Wednesday at 1:15. Every Wednesday at 1:30, we play we don't play Take It or Leave It. We do What If Wednesday. We'll have Matthew Bruni at the end of this hour with a practice report and some thoughts from Joe Sloan. We'll do all that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Maybe you've got a fantastic interest rate that you refinanced a couple of years ago. You're not looking to move from 3 points to 6 points on your interest rate, so you're going to stay put. But could use maybe a facelift here or there. Well, what would a brand new custom bathroom do for your living situation? It can be something small, like a tub to shower conversion. They do that kind of stuff all the time. It can be a full-scale bathroom renovation or remodel. David Duvall and his team do it as well, and you don't have to call 3 different contractors to get that done. You call one. And David Duvall and his team handle it from start to finish. It starts with a questionnaire, an understanding of what it is that you have, what it is that you want. Maybe you can use the space that you have a little bit more comfortably. Maybe you need to do a little bit more than that, but you won't know unless you get the free consultation over there with One Bath and Closets. If you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you, $1,000 off of your job at One Bath and Closets. You can check out the website, see pictures of their great work. You can see testimonials from their satisfied clients and get that free consultation I tell you about every single day. It's One Bath and Closets, OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us.
On Wednesdays, OTB. Hear from Coach Brian Kelly as LSU training camp rolls right along. Also continue to get ready for Saints preseason game number 1. And a little makeup OTB mailbag. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LSU put on full pads for the first time in fall camp today. They had been in shells previously, started out in helmets, kind of light shoulder pads, put the full shoulder pads on over the weekend. They were in full pads today. Matthew Bruni of On3 Sports was there. We'll join him in about 10 minutes to get a practice report from today's workout. But first, it's What If Wednesday.
Space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, first one here. What if you could go to any event at the 2028 LA Olympics besides golf? Because we all know that you would probably choose that.
Are they playing at Riv? I think they're playing at Riv.
They
yes,
are.
That would be what I would go
yeah.
to. Yes.
Which event/sport are you choosing?
Basketball is attractive, but I don't think that's my answer. I can watch those guys down the road in New Orleans most of the time. So I think I'm gonna go with swimming. That's my favorite. I realize that track's taken over this week, and that's been really, really exciting to watch. I like swimming because I feel like the 100 meters was so exciting and so electric. It's over in 9 seconds, and I couldn't even tell who won watching it. So that's a little tough. Swimming is a little easier to follow, and it's a little slower, and you can kind of see, especially on the relays, like who's kind of in control. So I really like swimming. I could definitely be put in for volleyball and basketball, but I would go with swimming.
I think I would go with track, specifically field. I guess specifically Mondo, because I just feel like he is literally the greatest pole vaulter in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
And the chances are he'll get the gold, and the chances are he might break his world record again. Who knows how high he's going to go in 4 more years. So I think I would want to see the greatest athlete in his profession going at it in the Olympics. That would be pretty cool. But let's ask Cassie. But you can't choose gymnastics. What would you choose?
Why can't you choose gymnastics?
Because it's like you. It's like you with golf. Because obviously she would choose gymnastics. That's the most obvious choice for her. So what would be your other one?
I mean, I think I might have to agree with you. I might have to go do pole vaulting. My brother also pole vaults, so
okay.
It would be very interesting to just watch that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mondo Mania.
All right, next one here. What if Nuss has a 2018 Burrow, 2021 Daniels, their first starting seasons this year? Does he stay for another season? What ripple effect does that have on recruiting, i.e. Bryce Underwood?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes, he would stay because he doesn't have insane measurables that would propel him way up in the draft. That would just be a good season, and I think that's kind of likely what we're going to get. I think that 19 Burrow and 2023 Daniels are pretty ridiculous standards to try to set people to. I think you're probably looking at a good season, not a great season, and I think he will be back, and I don't think that impacts recruiting at all with Bryce Underwood. I mean,
you don't think that?
I don't think Bryce Underwood is committing to LSU, not taking any other visits anywhere, flying down here on his own dime to visit the coaching staff and help recruit, just to realize, oh man, Garrett Nussmeier, who has 2 more years of eligibility, is coming back. I'm out of here. That's not how he's going to
I do wonder though if maybe there would be a possibility of I don't know. I wonder if there could be a possibility of Nussmeier transferring to somewhere else.
I don't think so. I think your 4th-year quarterback, 5th-year quarterback. I don't even remember how many years Nussmeier's been here. He's been here two full.
So
yeah, the last Ogeron team he was on. He didn't play in the bowl game.
Right.
That was his first year, and then we've had 2 Kelly years. So he's been here 3. That'd be your 5th-year quarterback transferring because the freshman showed up. I don't think so.
All right, next one here. What if you could add one player from the past to this year's LSU defense? We've done this one before.
We did it last year.
Who would it be this year?
Got that one on Twitter. Last year I said Arden Key.
Which was interesting.
It was. I thought that they kind of had corner figured out with Denver Harris and Deuce Chestnut.
That wasn't the case.
It was not the case, and I thought, man, they don't have a real pass rusher that I know they can count on. I'm hopeful for Savion Jones but they gotta fill in for B.J. Ojolari, and they don't have. I'd take Arden Key, who set the sack record as a freshman and sophomore. And Charles Handegriff heard that answer and looked at me and he said, "There's only one answer, and it's always Tyrann Mathieu. It's always Tyrann Mathieu."
Yeah.
And that's not a terrible thought. Because he was as dynamic a defensive player as LSU's ever had. But I do think I would go away from Tyrann Mathieu on this year's team, and I think I would go Glenn Dorsey. I'll take the absolute monster in the middle to disrupt things.
See, that's interesting to me because I don't think many people see defensive tackle as a weakness on this defense. Okay, well, I think in terms of depth, at least, I don't think it doesn't.
I'm not talking about depth. I don't think their defensive tackles are good enough today. I will say that bluntly.
Okay.
Jacobian Guillory has never started. He's been a backup his whole career. Jalen Lee has never started, been a backup his whole career. Gio Paez was a part-time defensive end at Wisconsin last year. JVR Suggs playing at Grand Valley State. This is a concern to me in a big way. I hope Bo Davis whips him into shape, and Jacobian Guillory and Gio Paez play great football, and LSU's the 5th best run defense in the SEC. But for me to sit here on August the 7th and go, I feel pretty good about that, would just be a lie. I don't think they have the great LSU teams, and I don't know if this is a great LSU team or not. They've got professional football players at defensive tackle, and I don't think that LSU has that right now.
Fair enough. Moving on, what if LSU's defense is actually good this year?
If it's good, I think they'll be a really good team. If it's good, I think they're a 10 or 11 win teams. I think the offense will be pretty good. I just don't know if they're going to be good. So if we're playing the what if game, which we are, I think that LSU would win 10 or 11 games.
They're in the playoffs.
They were good. Yeah.
All right, last one here. What if you could pick the next season opening neutral site matchup for LSU?
Well, y'all know how I function, and I would play Rice in Houston because that's how I think the best way to get to the playoff is. But to play along with the game and to come up with a cool venue and a great opponent, which is kind of I think what this is asking. I think that's obvious too, and I'm going to play to my own bias. I'm going to send LSU to Chicago on Labor Day weekend so I can go to a Cubs game that hopefully matters. And then they're going to play in Soldier Field on the lakefront. I think that would be incredible, and I will pick for a neutral site matchup for them in that game. They will play Penn State.
Yeah.
Play Penn State. I'm not going to put myself into a really bad situation. Penn State's good, not Ohio State. But I would play Penn State in Chicago. That would be my neutral site matchup.
Yeah, that would be fun. It would probably be. Yeah, actually, no. The weather would probably be really nice at that time too.
Oh yeah, it'd be fantastic. I mean, it's the same weekend we went up there to Green Bay, and a lot of people stayed in Chicago that weekend. And there were Cubs games, and saw there was a Leonard Fournette Cubs jersey that somebody was wearing at Murphy's.
Interesting.
That's where I'd be. That's what I'd be doing. So that was my neutral site pick. That is What If Wednesday. And we come back. Matthew Bruni was at practice today, covering things for On 3. He'll tell us what he saw coming up next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments of the summer. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place where you can find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. You're looking for an option in terms of your sports gambling and want to find a spot where you can do it on the app. ESPN Bet is certainly a great option. Got to be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with LeBares Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Mosco.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. Tigers back on the practice field, and we'll hear from Joe Sloan. Saints on the practice field as well. We'll have a report. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here, Hunt Palmer Show. We'll meet the freshman coming up in 15 minutes. Still a lot to get to from Saints camp. Earlier today, Matthew Paris is going to join us at the bottom of hour number 2. But let's talk some LSU football. Tigers were in full pads on the practice field today. Matthew Bruni from On3 Sports was there to cover it. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Hunt. I'm doing great. Just, work never stops now that we're in football season.
It's pretty much around the clock type stuff at this point, but that's a good thing. It beats the hell out of July. I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm just going to toss a name out to you, and you kind of tell me what your thoughts have been through a week or so of camp. Ashton Stamps.
He's been really good. He's been terrific, honestly. I think he has taken the necessary steps forward. I still don't think he's by any means an all-conference player or anything like that, but I think he's a solid corner who continues to challenge himself. Today we saw him out there against Kyron Lacey. He'll lose reps, but he continues to push himself, and honestly at this point that's what this defense needs. It needs guys that are willing to compete and improve, so I feel good about it.
Sage Ryan.
Feel less good about him. The indecision of the defensive staff putting him between safety and corner kind of, to me, indicates a lack of trust at either one, but I still don't think he physically fits the profile of a high-level cornerback, and I think I would rather have P.J. Woodland over him, but I think they trust the, obviously, veteran presence and a guy who at least will be in the right position most of the time.
How much of his basically exclusively playing cornerback while we've been out there has to do with Zy Alexander being unable to go through everything at full speed and Javian Toviano kind of being eased in? I mean, is that why he's out there, or do they just don't know where to play him?
I think it's both. I do definitely think if Zy Alexander was healthy, we'd see Alexander and Stamps, the two corners. To your point, Javian Toviano has pretty much been sidelined. Like, he's been out there, but he hasn't done anything. So we're still trying to figure out what his situation is. So yes, I do think that plays a significant role, but also if they really liked what they saw from him in the spring at safety, I can't imagine that they would then move him and in favor of Jordan Allen moving to safety. Like, I just can't see that being the case. So I think he's a tweener. I think he's a guy who, with his size and maybe limited top end speed, doesn't check as many boxes as you want at either position.
Jacobian Guillory.
I think he's been the best defensive tackle, which isn't a shock, but I think he's definitely locked in, and I'm someone who was skeptical coming in of Guillory because the past 2 years it's always been Jacobian Guillory. Let's see when he pops, let's see what he does, and he's just never really popped. So I'm hesitant to buy stock, but at the same time, Guillory, I think, has had a good camp, and honestly, LSU doesn't have another choice but to play Jacobian Guillory and hope that he's really good. So I think he's been good in camp. I think it helps that he's getting good coaching from Bo Davis, and I think he'll have a good year.
How about on the opposite side of the ball, DJ Chester at center?
A little disappointing. I think he is someone that I maybe had too high of expectations going in. I think he, as a freshman, just checked a lot of boxes in terms of his physical stature and just the potential that he has with his strength, and I thought that was going to be a significant upgrade over Charles Turner. Just watching him and hearing Brian Kelly talk about him and whatnot, it feels like he's still really has some time before we reach that potential. So I don't think it'll be a significant blow to this offensive line if he's a little subpar, but obviously they have plenty of talent around him. But I think this will be a work in progress with EJ Chester. I'm not out on him. I think he's going to be a good player, but it might take some time.
This comes a little bit more important after yesterday's news, but Kamorian Pimpton.
Yeah, Pimpton's someone I've gone back and forth on a little bit. Out of high school, I wasn't the highest on him. A lot of people obviously were. I think On 3 had him as the number 5 tight end or something in class. But overall, I think the receiving ability is there. I think he's gotten a lot better as a blocker, which is, like you said, very significant with Max Markway leaving. He's going to play a ton this year. I'm interested to see how many 12 personnel sets they play with him. And I think he gets, a reasonable amount of catches. I just don't know. I don't think the upside is nearly what obviously Trey Des Green is, and that might be unfair, but that's just kind of where my head is.
I think that's completely fair with anybody that's out there. I mean, you just see Trey Des Green, he's a little bit taller, and he's faster, and he can jump a little bit higher, and he's everything that Kamorian Pimpton is, just a little bit better, but a year younger, and I think it's going to be interesting how those two kind of jockey for playing time opposite Mason Taylor as they get into the season. This is an interesting one. What about John Emery?
The biggest surprise of camp to me has been watching John Emery seemingly look like he didn't just tear his ACL 9 months ago. I can't believe how spry he's been, and honestly how many carries that he's gotten throughout the entire the first week of camp. I mean, they've really thrown him back into the fire really quickly to push him and see what he's capable of. And there's been a couple times where he's had to walk off to the side and get his brace or knee checked out, and he's thrown his helmet in frustration, but he just keeps going out there and getting carries and looking really, really spry. So I'm like, if they get to John Emery, before the injury, then I think you're looking at a nice third option out of the backfield.
Garrett Nussmeier.
He's gotten better as camp's gone on. I think for me, it's not just the interceptions that he had early in the first 3 or 4 practices. He didn't look extremely sharp, and I think the past 2 days, yesterday and today, I think he's been significantly better. And I said, on the board, I said everywhere I wasn't worried about him after the first couple of practices, but I think it's actually a good thing that he got pushed and he maybe made some mistakes that he learned from. So all around, Nussmeier is going to be really good, and I think he's gotten better as camp's gone on.
Last one here, Kyron Lacey.
1,000-plus yard receiver. He continues to win reps against everybody they put him against. I think Nussmeier has the best connection with Lacey. I think that's obvious. And I think Lacey is going to be, the bona fide wide receiver 1 for LSU, I think, pretty comfortably this year. He's carried himself like a pro. He looks like a pro. We've seen pros really the past, however many years at LSU, and I think he fits the bill.
Joe Sloan met with the media earlier today. Anything that you took from that Q&A session?
I think part of it, I think the running backs were interesting to hear him talk about the run game. That was honestly one of my biggest questions, was to hear him talk about that and how they were going to do it. It sounded like there's a lot of trust in Caleb Jackson, and compared to last year, where last year felt a lot like the Whit Weeks situation, maybe where he was kind of swimming and was a fish out of water at times. So I'm excited to see Caleb Jackson and the run game in general. I think they know they have to be more creative. I think they are going to be more creative. And then just what he was talking about in terms of fitting an offense around Garrett Nussmeier, I'm interested to see what that looks like and how they kind of tailor the offense around him, obviously, compared to Jaden Daniels. So there wasn't anything groundbreaking, really, but I think he gave some good notes in terms of the run game, and also, like we talked about, the tight end position now. Without Markway, he really believes in Pimpton and Green behind Taylor.
You want practice videos? You want practice reports? You can all get them all over at On 3, the Bengal Tiger, Matthew Bruni, Shea Dixon, Billy Embody. They are all over it. We'll see you out there later this week, Matthew. Thanks for some time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime.
He is Matthew Bruni. Appreciate him for giving us a few minutes. I'm with him. I said this yesterday, and at times you just reiterate things. We don't have the same listenership every single day, and sometimes it helps to hear something twice. I have been really impressed with Kyron Lacey. And you could sit there and say, well, duh, we saw him last year. He was really good. He just couldn't get the ball because Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors were out there. Okay, he had a huge drop in the Florida State game, and he was a number 3 that has come from Louisiana Lafayette. Like, that's just, I'm not willing to just cede him excellence because those two guys moved on to the NFL in the first round, and he's next up on that list. Like, I'm not even bringing that into the equation. I'm just watching practice. He is dominating out there. Every rep, no matter the cornerback, no matter the route, he's high pointing balls. They're throwing back shoulders. He's beating guys to the inside. He's beating guys deep. He's been phenomenal for a week. It's been really interesting to watch. And I'm trying to, like, this is not bias that's creeping in because we saw some stuff last year. Like, this is purely what we've seen over the course of camp. He's been sensational, and Bruni's obviously seen the same type thing. If you missed any of our LSU football coverage, you can find it on YouTube. Hunt on LSU. All of our LSU football content right there every single day. Pause for Sports Center. When we come back, we'll meet the freshman Matthew Paris in 35 minutes talking Saints from Irvine. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. The NCAA announced a 4-year show cause order for former Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh for impermissible contact with recruits and players. While access was restricted during the pandemic, it requires any school that would hire Harbaugh, now coaching the LA Chargers, to suspend him the first full season. Texas running back C.J. Baxter will miss the season with a knee injury sustained yesterday at practice. Russell Wilson, limited with a calf injury during the first half of training camp, is QB1 of the Steelers' depth chart. He won't play, though, in Friday's preseason opener. Justin Fields will play a couple of series, getting another opportunity to gain ground in the quarterback competition. ESPN's Kimberly A. Martin.
His mobility and escapability is a weapon. We're going to leave that on the bench? When you are in a division that has Myles Garrett, when it has Matabike, when it has Zadarius Smith, when it has Kyle Hamilton, like when you have Roquan Smith, oh yeah, I want my quarterback to be able to move.
NBA, the Jazz signing all-star forward Lauri Markkanen to a 5-year, $238 million extension, reports ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Thursday, I'll tell you just how good the Jets defense needs to be if they want to compete for the AFC East. It's unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half that work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. I'll be very, very honest. Like, the shows go faster in August than they did in July. The weeks go faster in August than they did in July. And we're just barreling ahead towards football season here, and fired up that you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Matthew Paris in 30 minutes from Irvine talking about the New Orleans Saints. Got a few other stories that we want to get to in this hour. We can't start the hour until we meet the freshmen.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen, meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
We will officially be halfway done with Meet the Freshmen as of today once we cross these two off the list. Kylan Billiot is where we will start. He is a wide receiver on this squad, 6'3", 190 pounds. He hails from Houma, went to Terrebonne High School, was a 4-star by 24/7 and Rivals, and everybody in the recruiting game had him as a top 10 player in the state of Louisiana. He's obviously a very good wide receiver. That's why he decided to come play football at LSU at 6'3", 190. But what I'm interested in with Kylan Billiot, he was a point guard on the Terrebonne High School basketball team. He was honorable mention All-State as a junior in basketball. He averaged 14.3 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 steals. He scored over 1,000 points in his high school basketball career. I like that. It shows some athleticism. It shows the ability to play up in the air. You don't have to play basketball to be a good wide receiver. I would assume, just based on the way he runs and the physical nature of his play, that Jarvis Landry is not a very good basketball player. Real good wide receiver, but I do like this element to Kylan Billiot's game. He also ran track over at Terrebonne High School, ran a 10.2 in the 100 and a 20.3 in the 200 meters. Really, really good athlete. There are not a lot of available footballs right now because I think Kyron Lacey has elevated himself to the top of this food chain without a doubt. I think C.J. Daniels is going to be a really good player. I think that Chris Hilton has had a fantastic spring and fall camp. I think those 3 guys look really good. Beyond them, there may be some opportunities, but I think Xavier Thomas has proven that he can play. And right now, I think Kyle Parker has done a good job, at least of getting open. He has had a drop the last 2 days, which does hurt. There's no question about that. But I think he's going to catch the football, and he's done a really good job of getting open. You add in Aaron Anderson to that mix and Shelton Sampson to that mix, and I just don't know if there's a way to the field for Kylan Billiot. It looked that way when Neighbors and Thomas moved on, but then you went and got C.J. Daniels and Xavier Thomas from the transfer portal, and that kind of hurts the ability for guys to move up very, very quickly. So I don't think that Kylan Billiot is going to have a huge role in this team, but obviously athletically, he's got a lot of gifts. To be this talented at wide receiver, to be a high school basketball star that scored 1,000 points, and to be a guy that could run track, there are a lot of real traits that you like in Kylan Billiot. And there's a reason he was a 4-star by multiple services. So that's Kylan Billiot. Second here is Demarion Johnson. Demarion Johnson, 6'1", 295, defensive lineman from Westgate over in New Iberia. LSU struggled a little bit with Westgate. Like, Kayshon Boutte's from Westgate, and that's good. You had that pipeline in there. But last year you lost Derek Williams, the safety that went to Texas. And this year Jabari Antoine has decommitted from LSU and is now committed to Miami. So there's always really good players coming out of Westgate. Just a matter of can you get them to campus. And LSU did get Demarion Johnson to campus. ESPN liked him a lot. They had him as a 4-star and the number 6 player in the state of Louisiana last year, the 16th best defensive lineman in the entire nation. The other 3 services had him as a 3-star recruit. Oklahoma State was involved. Texas A&M was involved. But Demarion Johnson said that it was his dream to play at LSU and always wanted to be here. And so now he is. This is a guy who figures to get into the mix next year, I would think. He's certainly not the prospect that Dominic McKinley was at the same position coming in, but I think LSU really likes the defensive line class that they signed with McKinley, with Relaford, with Demarion Johnson coming in this class, and I think he's probably a year away as well, but that's the way that it should be. You should not be bringing in freshmen and asking them to play immediately on the defensive line. You got a true freshman that can get out there and cover somebody at corner, a guy that can run the running back position. That's great. Defensive line, not necessarily where you want to be breaking in freshmen all that often. So Demarion Johnson is going to sit behind a host of older players and develop and hopefully become a force for LSU in the coming year. So that's Kylan Billiot and Demarion Johnson here in Meet the Freshman. As we're talking about the beginning of some careers here with Meet the Freshman, a career apparently came to an end in the National Football League today. Sadiq Charles, LSU product, offensive lineman, up there with Tennessee, going through camp. They've been at it for 3 weeks, and he looked up today and said, you know what? I'm done. He just retired on the spot. And I think there are a lot of people that were very, very surprised by this with the Titans organization. But, it's just one of those things. Jacob Hester talks about this all the time on the morning show. Like, he got a contract offer from the Saints at camp, and he just kind of looked up and went, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's a very difficult thing to come back from. When you determine, I don't want to do this, that takes so much time and so much demand on the body, to mentally flip that off and then go, okay, I'm going to jump back in, like, that's really hard to do. And obviously this is not something that came to him just overnight. There was no injury that precipitated this. He was healthy. He was a presumed starter for Tennessee. But you got to put your head down in late July and determine you're not coming up for air again until February. And at that position, as physical as it is and the demands that come with it, if your heart's not in it anymore, like, that's it. And, like, there are 2 perspectives for this. One, I think it's great for Sadiq Charles to decide, you know what, I've made some money. I'm going to get out of here and do something else for the rest of my life. From my perspective, Hunt Palmer's perspective, I'm a little bit bummed that I couldn't get, another 5 years out of him to put another notch in the belt of the 2019 team. I'm always looking for those notches. How many Pro Bowls have they made? How much money have they made? How many awards have they won? How many records have they set in the NFL? Because I'm chasing a tough squad to chase. Trying to chase down 2001 Miami here with 2019 LSU. And when the left tackle for that team, who was a starter at the NFL level, doesn't start anymore and decides to quit, well, that hurts my case a little bit when I'm trying to make that argument. But in seriousness, like, it's great for Sadiq if he wants to make that decision. I can't relate to NFL guys. I can only try to kind of empathize with them to a degree. Like, sometimes you go through like a crash diet where you're not eating enough and you're working out like crazy and you're kind of depriving yourself of what you really like at the dinner table, all for a common good. And then you decide, you know what, I'm I'm going to jump back out for a weekend here and just kind of let it all hang out. And then it's just tough to get back into it. And it's tough to go back to where you were mentally. And I think Sadiq's kind of decided, you know what? I've had enough of this NFL life. I'm going to go figure something else out. So Sadiq Charles, heck of a player here at LSU as a left tackle for the best team in school history. A really quality NFL player, but he kind of looked up today in the middle of camp. It's an odd time. There's no question about that. But said, you know what? I'm out. And that puts Tennessee in a difficult spot because everybody's kind of settled on what they want to do with their roster moving forward, certainly from a starting perspective. And now they've got to try to figure something out on the offensive line. But Sadiq Charles says that he is done with the NFL. All right, we'll get to Matthew Paris coming up here in about 20 minutes. When we come back, huge announcement from a 5-star receiver. LSU is in the mix. Where is he headed? And Ashton Larson gets a huge honor up in Cape Cod. We'll talk about all that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. We've got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in pin cash every single week. So visit pinplaysports.com/cover5 today and register for your chance to play the Cover 5 game and win. If you're not a member, you can get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino, your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 988.
On Wednesday's OTB. Hear from Coach Brian Kelly as LSU training camp rolls right along. Also continue to get ready for Saints preseason game number 1. And a little makeup OTB mailbag. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Go out to Irvine here in 15 minutes. Matthew Paris covers the Saints for The Advocate, and he's been out there for now 2 weeks covering the black and gold. So we'll get a check-in with them as they get ready for their first preseason game coming up on Saturday. A 5-star wide receiver, Khalil Lockett, made his commitment today to Texas. I think everybody kind of thought that's where things were headed. Shea Dixon's RPM machine prediction on 3 was headed that direction. LSU was very much in the mix, but Texas is home, and Texas made their push, and they were able to land the big 5-star. LSU's been in the mix for some 5-stars. Certainly DeCorian Moore was a guy that was committed to LSU for a time, and now he's committed to Oregon. Khalil Lockett's a guy that LSU got in for a visit and did do some work on, but weren't able to pull him in. So now all eyes coming from a 5-star perspective fall on Jamie French and his announcement here coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. LSU got him in for the Bayou Splash. Bryce Underwood's been working really hard on him, and you got to think LSU is a pretty attractive place for wide receivers these days. They've put a number into the NFL, a lot of first-rounders. You're looking at Justin Jefferson, you're looking at Jamar Chase, and certainly Thomas and Neighbors in more recent memory, and you've got the number 1 quarterback in the country committed in this class. So I would imagine there's a pretty good pitch to be made for wide receivers for LSU. Khalil Lockett decided he was going to head to Austin, so we'll see if LSU can reel in Jamie French at that spot. Jerron Francis, a really good wide receiver that is from the state of Louisiana that is committed to LSU. You go out and get Derek Meadows from Las Vegas when he was looking at Notre Dame. So you've done a good job from a wide receiver perspective in this class, but I think French would kind of be the cherry on top of the class if they could make that happen here in the coming weeks. Did want to briefly talk a little bit of baseball. I understand we're full steam ahead in football season, but
really, Hunt,
when you can mix in a little baseball, you got to try to do it. I don't know that the guys in the morning show are going to handle this. I don't think so. I don't think the guys on Live and Lunch are going to handle this. So
nope, definitely
if anybody's going to bring this to your attention, it's got to be me.
You're telling me Jimmy Ott doesn't want to talk about the Cape Cod League?
I don't know that Jimmy is super well versed in the Cape Cod statistics. I'm not here to tell you that I'm super versed in them. I find them difficult to find at times, but I have had very little difficulty finding Ashton Larson's statistics and highlights over the summer. He's had a monster year in the Cape Cod League. His team's season came to an end last week, and he was actually honored today by the Chatham Anglers, who gave him the Thurman Munson Outstanding Position Player Award for the entirety of the summer. So Ashton Larson, basically the offensive MVP there for Chatham. It's a very, very difficult league to hit in. You've got a ton of draftable pitchers who are there. You've got wooden bats, and it's not a league that produces a ton of offense. And really all summer long, Ashton Larson has had a batting average hovering around or just north of 300. I think there's every reason to believe that Ashton Larson is going to have an excellent sophomore and junior season here at LSU. I think it's a strong, strong likelihood that he's a starter in the outfield from the beginning. I know that there are some of you that are rolling your eyes like, of course he's going to be a starter. He was a starter as a freshman last year. Why wouldn't he be a starter? Well, Josh Pearson was a starter as a freshman, and he came out of the lineup because they had some other guys that they figured could swing the bat. And LSU went out and added a lot of players in the transfer portal that they hope can help them swing the bats. So, I mean, you look at Beck that's coming in, you look at Curiel that's coming in, and they've gone – and you've got guys like Ethan Fry who are still around, and Jake Brown's still around for sure, and like Josh Pearson's still here, and there are a lot of guys vying for outfield spots this fall and into the spring for LSU, and I think Ashton Larson kind of has cemented himself as the most likely outfielder to be a starting player. I think they like Jake Brown, but he's got to keep developing. I think they like Josh Pearson, trust Josh Pearson, but he's had 2 pretty average seasons as far as LSU outfielders go, albeit with a flair for some dramatics. Ashton Larson has been really consistent since LSU put him in the lineup in the middle of last year. He had a monster home run against Arkansas that weekend. He had a huge weekend against Missouri and really was as consistent all the way through. So I don't know how much power is going to be in that bat. I'm hopeful he grows into some. But as far as just hitting line drives, hitting the ball hard, not striking out, good pitch recognition, Ashton Larson's got all of that, and it was all on display over the summer up there in the Cape Cod League. There's no better league to go to than the Cape Cod League to test your ability. And Ashton Larson passed with flying colors. So I always talk about Andrew Stevenson when I talk about summer league statistics, especially between freshman and sophomore years, because he is the shining example. Now, Ashton Larson and Andrew Stevenson are very much different. Ashton Larson has been a baseball guy his entire life. He was very much a draft risk coming out of high school. Andrew Stevenson was not. Andrew Stevenson played football. He was a wide receiver for St. Thomas More, came to LSU, and having split time between sports his entire life. And he had the opportunity to take all of that athleticism and boil it down into baseball. And he couldn't hit a lick as a freshman at LSU. He wasn't ready to do it. He went off to Cape Cod, made some adjustments, really swung the bat well the summer after his freshman year. He came back the next 2 years. He was a 370-plus hitter at LSU, ended up being a high draft pick and made the major leagues. That's the ultimate success story, but that's the type of development that you hope happens in some of these leagues. And while Larson is not necessarily in that mold, I think Jake Brown is to an extent, because we know that Jake Brown has split time his entire baseball life between pitching and hitting, and LSU took him last year and said, hey, you're just going to hit. He's going to pitch a little bit, I think, this fall, and they'll kind of keep him fresh and keep him engaged in that way. But I do think that they like more so his ability offensively. He was pretty good this summer in limited at-bats. He'll have an opportunity to kind of fight for that job in the outfield when they get to fall baseball. But I did want to mention Ashton Larson, Thurman Munson, Outstanding Position Player Award for the Chatham Anglers. A really, really good summer for him. Some more baseball news before we get to Matthew Paris from out in Irvine. If you notice this, Landon Victorian, the former Barb right-hander who was an excellent high school prospect, committed to LSU, and then he got into a legal matter while he was a senior in high school. There was an incident where there was a knife allegedly pulled on multiple high school coaches in a team meeting. It ended in his expulsion from Barb. There were some legal issues that went back and forth, and there was kind of an uncertainty around whether Landon Victorian was going to make it to campus here at LSU, and we didn't really know. Well, we've got our answer now, as Landon Victorian over the weekend went to his Instagram feed and announced that he's going to Oklahoma. So he's not going to be in Baton Rouge. I couldn't quite get a clear answer. I was kind of looking around with some people inside the program, and I just didn't really get much. Whenever there's a legal issue, an off-the-field issue, people are, I think, hesitant to talk about those types of things. But I got a lot of questions about it from people in the community, in the Bayou Ford chat on Twitter. Like, hey, what's the deal with Landon Victorian? And I didn't have a great answer. Landon Victorian provided that answer over the weekend by saying, hey, he's going to go to Oklahoma. So now Cam Johnson and Landon Victorian both at Oklahoma with some ties back to LSU. Victorian incidentally had a great summer. He got a lot of strikeouts. I think it was the Northwoods League where he was pitching. He's a really, really talented guy, but allegedly made a pretty bad decision that cost him his high school career. We'll see if he can rebound and recapture things in his college years up in Norman, Oklahoma. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Wednesday. I'll get you caught up here briefly on LSU's practice schedule before we get to Matthew Paris talking Saints. LSU was in full pads today and went through their entirety of their workout there. We had Matthew Bruni talking about it in the first hour. Tomorrow is going to be a day off for LSU on Thursday. And then they're going to be back at it on Friday. Media will not be allowed to attend the Friday practice. Then they're back at it on Saturday where the media can go and check things out. So if you're looking for your practice reports, looking for your videos, looking for your content here, you can find that on Saturday after we're allowed to go to practice in the morning, which they'll be in full pads and continue to barrel ahead in fall camp here in Baton Rouge. Saints are dealing with a little bit more favorable weather conditions. We'll go out west and talk to Matthew Paris from The Advocate when we come back on this Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy, evolvept.com. Robbie Bolton, about 20 years as a physical therapist here in Baton Rouge, looking for active people who, for whatever reason, are not able to be their active selves at the current juncture, whether you've been injured in an accident, whether you have been injured playing sports, whether you just have aches and pains that won't go away and won't allow you to do things you want to do in the gym, on the golf course, on the tennis court, wherever the case may be. Robbie Bolton and his team can help you. It's Evolve Physical Therapy. Maybe you've had a poor physical therapy experience where you didn't feel like there was enough hands-on attention being given. That's never going to be the case at Evolve. They're always going to be right there with you every step of the way, getting you back to being your active self. They do dry needling, they do cupping, they do soft tissue manipulation, massages, all types of things, including isokinetic testing, try to get you back on your feet doing the things that you love to do. They're on Starring near Highland Road. They're online at evolvept.com. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports online, evolvept.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. Tigers back on the practice field, and we'll hear from Joe Sloan. Saints on the practice field as well. We'll have a report. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I think it was a disappointing week in the swimming pool for Team USA in the Olympics, but it appears they're getting it all back on the track. I'm seeing my Twitter feed populate with another Olympic gold for Team USA. I know a lot of folks listen or watch at night when it's all playing on tape delay. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it appears that there are some good things going on for the Stars and Stripes.
And by the way, they did actually win the battle between Australia and the U.S. in terms of the swimming for the medal count. I think they actually had more total medals in swimming than the Australian, which is always the battle, U.S. Australia in swimming. So they won that. So they didn't do too bad.
Take your kangaroos and shove it, Australia. Deal with it.
Just trying to make some enemies now, huh?
That's exactly right. The Aussies. I don't like Cam Smith or Mark Leishman right now because they went to live. So There you go. There you have it. I like Jason Day.
Adam Scott.
That's who I like. Adam Scott. Very good. All right, let's go out to Irvine, California. Matthew Paris covers the New Orleans Saints for The Advocate. Joins us here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Matthew, thanks for the time. How are you?
doing great. Thanks for having me.
What can you tell us about the Saints' pursuit of Justin Simmons, who's still a free agent?
Yeah, it's definitely real. They're bringing him in for a visit this afternoon, and Dennis Allen was pretty candid when he met with reporters talking about their interest. It seems legitimate, seems both ways. He mentioned that Justin Simmons had reached out to them in the spring, that they had talked about, potentially working together all the way back after the draft, but the money wasn't there at the time. But it seems like, as Justin Simmons goes more unsigned by the day, that there's now interest in, potentially getting a deal together. So we'll see if it happens.
Describe to me the fit here with Justin Simmons and how he works into the equation with the Saints.
Yeah, there's a lot of familiarity there. Joe Woods, their defensive coordinator, and Marcus Robertson, their secondary coach. They coach Simmons in Denver, and Simmons is a really still a productive player. He maybe lost a step last year, wasn't as excellent as he had been, but this is an incredibly productive player. He still had 3 interceptions last year, made the Pro Bowl, has made a bunch of all-pro teams, mostly on the second team. But he's kind of a deep safety, can play a lot of different roles. Denver used him in the nickel a little bit too, but he's really kind of that deep post, deep threat safety. And so that would be the interesting thing about the signing is how does that work with Tyrann Mathieu? But a lot of modern safeties now are interchangeable. They do play kind of both sides. So, it would definitely be another tool for Dennis Allen and his staff to have.
Tell us about the camp that Tyrann Mathieu and Jordan Howden have had and why the Saints would look to add at safety.
Yeah, I think Tyrann Mathieu has been has had a good camp, really strong. The other spot opposite that, it's not just Jordan Howden who's in the mix there. It's Will Harris, who they signed from Detroit earlier this offseason, Jonathan Abram, who started the last 2 games of last season. He's been in the mix. Even a guy like Roderick Teamer, who they brought in from Las Vegas, he's even gotten some first-team reps. So that spot is really up in the air, and I do think that their interest in Simmons is kind of reflective of the camp that these guys have had and how no one has really seized that job.
Let's talk numbers and what works. Are we thinking that this would end up being a 1-year deal? Do we think that he wants some more long-term security at age 30, 31? I mean, what makes sense for New Orleans in terms of the salary cap? We know that they haven't committed a lot of years to any free agents or roster additions this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but it would be hard pressed to see him getting more than a 1-year deal just based on the time of year it is and kind of how his market has unfolded. Now, you look at some of the other safeties around the league, like Quandre Diggs. He just signed with Tennessee. He signed for a 1-year, $5 million deal. Now, I think Simmons is a much better player than that, so I don't know. I would be surprised if it's 5, but that's kind of been the going rate for some safeties this offseason because that position has been pretty bleak. There have been a lot of guys cut. Even Tyrann Mathieu was asked to take a pay cut this offseason as he got another year on his deal. So it's a rough market out there for them right now.
Assuming they don't sign Justin Simmons and they've still got this, depending on where you're looking, $11 to $13 million to spend, what other positions does it make sense for the Saints to try to look at adding to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's more so of who's available, right?
Yeah.
I could say right tackle, but there's not really one out there right now that I think would make a lot of sense for them. Tight end would be another spot, especially if Juwan Johnson, if his foot doesn't heal in time for the start of the season, maybe there. But it's really safety. I think is kind of the more obvious one, just because of the names available. I mean, they do have money to spend, but I don't think there's really a guy out there right now that makes sense for them outside of Justin Simmons.
I'm curious of any updates on injuries. We know the same folks that we've talked about day in and day out with Kendre Miller, with Demario Davis, with Marshawn Lattimore, some of the other names that we've mentioned. Any injury update from today's workout?
Yeah, we saw Demario Davis and Jalen Ford do some work to the side. Equimania St. Brown was also working kind of in the rehab area. So I don't know how close those guys are, but it was good to at least see them kind of do work. The new one today was Mason Tipton, kind of the breakout story of Sam. He left early with a hamstring injury, so not the best timing for him with the first preseason game coming up, but we'll see if that's severe, if he'll be at practice tomorrow. Dennis Allen just listed the injury and then kind of moved along. So we don't have any sense on his timetable or anything like that.
That's brutal timing, as you mentioned, for Mason Tipson. This is exactly when he needs to be out there, and for him to miss a little bit of time, depending on how long that is, that's a tough break for him. Let's talk backup quarterbacks, because I think that's probably the majority of what we're going to see, all of what we're going to see coming up on Saturday. Jake Haener missed workouts yesterday. He was, I'm assuming, back today and ready to roll.
He was, yeah. I thought he looked really sharp. Had a really nice connection with A.T. Perry. Kind of, throughout practice, they connected on a few balls that I thought were, pretty nice timing, pretty nice finds. So seems like, it didn't seem like the day off or the 2 days off for him really kind of affected his rhythm at all. He's thinking back and right to it. But that's what's been fun about the backup quarterback battle is each of these guys have had their moments, just being in rhythm. Both of them have had really good camps.
What do you think the approach is to this preseason game for Dennis Allen and the Saints in terms of starters? There's some young guys I think you'd probably like to get snaps, but it feels like the league is trending away from putting guys out there in preseason games.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know that Dennis Allen, I think, has taken a cautious approach to this in the past, but I believe Derek Carr played in the first game last year. Is that?
I don't think he did. I think he only played one series the whole time and sat down the rest of the way.
Okay, my bad on that. I was covering Washington last year.
Yeah, I mean that's just my recollection. I know he played one series, but I don't think it was in the first. I don't think it was in the first game. It may have been though.
Yeah. So they've been cautious. There are a lot of young guys. Like I think it'll be really interesting to see what the injury situation. I mean, it's the list is so long right now that you look at a position like cornerback, you can see a lot of Shamir. John Charles, Rajon Wright, like guys who have been getting regular first-team reps because of these injuries. I think they would probably have to play quite a bit of in the actual games just because there's not a lot of bodies right now, specifically at corner.
What about tackle? Like, would you think Penning and Fuaga would play, or would you think that because they're the starters, they would sit?
Yeah, that's a good one. I honestly don't know. I would imagine that they try and at least for Fuaga to get him some experience, and Penning, but it just depends on, you would think that because this is a offensive line with 3 new starters that they would want to build that chemistry in these games, but teams, like you said, have been very cautious with these games in the past.
And that's why they're probably going to go away, and we'll just keep adding regular season games instead of these preseason games where a lot of guys that are about to get cut are out there playing the majority of the snaps. There's a lot of chippiness, I think, going back towards the weekend right before the day off for the Saints. Is that kind of continued, or is that chilled out a little bit?
No, it was pretty chill today. They worked a lot on situational stuff like short yardage. They had kind of a 9-play drive marching down the field with crowd noise that they kind of went about their business. There wasn't really any, even the play. It was kind of a quieter practice, I thought, just especially in terms of that.
How's Dennis Allen's demeanor been?
Yeah, he's been pretty relaxed, I think. Has been kind of, he has talked about, needing to just show, I think, guys a little bit of a different side of practice. I wrote a story earlier, right before training camp, of just how they had approached the off season differently. But in terms of pressure, he's been pretty kind of relaxed and has answered a lot of questions, I think, openly. And it's been, he just seems excited about the first preseason game. For him going into such a big year for his job, it doesn't really seem like it is affecting him, at least publicly.
How about Derek Carr?
Yeah, he's had same old Derek Carr. He's constant positivity.
Yeah.
Haven't really seen necessarily the outbursts that we saw in games last year in these practices. When Spencer Rattler was on the podium the other day, he kind of shouted like, "That's a fine, Ricky. That's a fine." He was having a little bit of fun with Spencer because he was doing another interview. He had just wrapped up a interview with a local TV outlet. So, he constant positivity. That's just kind of who Derek Carr is, and same old Derek Carr.
Enjoy the football this weekend, Matthew. We'll do it again soon. Thanks, man.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
Matthew Parrish, Times-Picayune advocate, Saints beat writer out there in Irvine. I'm a little bit fascinated with how the Saints handle this preseason game. I'm 98.9% confident that Derek Carr is not going to play a snap. I think the same can be said for Alvin Kamara. I think the same can be said for Cam Jordan. Same can be said for Tyrann Mathieu. Like, those guys don't need to be out there. But I'm curious what they do with Taliesin Fuanga. I'm curious what they do with Trevor Penning. I'm curious if Brian Brzee can come back and play. I don't know what his health and situation looks like. I'd like to see Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think he will get some reps. But it's just interesting because the league, which once let like kind of the starters play a little bit in week 1, a little bit more in week 2, a lot in week 3, and then sit week 4, you've kind of put all the starters on the shelf at this point. Like, I was listening to Aaron Rodgers talk 2 weeks ago, and he's like, we used to play in preseason. Now they don't even let us go out there. And look, it didn't necessarily help with Aaron Rodgers last year not playing in the preseason because he went out there on the first drive of this season and tore his Achilles. So you can't forecast anything that's going to happen. You reduce the chances of an injury happening if you're standing on the sideline in sweats as opposed to out there playing football, but you never really know. So I'm curious just how the Saints handle things on Saturday, and I'm excited to watch a little bit of the Saints and see some of the new guys that we've been talking about. I feel detached from the Saints a little bit, because they're so far away and we're having to rely on people every single day to come in and kind of fill in the blanks for us. We can read quotes and comment on those. We can see some of the practice footage that ends up on Twitter or wherever, but we're a little detached. I feel pretty well connected with what LSU's doing because they're right down the road and they let us in there, but that's just the nature of the beast. The Saints will be back in Metairie next year, and this is just one of those deals where the media gets to go out and enjoy some cool weather for a few weeks before they come back and sweat with the rest of us. So appreciate Matthew for joining us and talking a little bit of black and gold here as we get to the end of Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We'll come back, play some Take It or Leave It, and get on down the road. It is the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. We love playing music in the house. I love to listen to music while I'm cooking. I like to listen to music or podcasts out on the back patio while Myers is going down the slide or hitting the T-ball or whatever the case may be. I just always like to have some music or some energy around, and I used to just play it on my phone. Well, now I go to my phone, but I go to an app, and then we've got speakers outside. We've got speakers in the kitchen, so the sound quality is 1,000 times better than it was in a previous life, and that's all due to my friends over at Audio Video Security Solutions. Mitchell Fisher and his team, fantastic local company. You're going to get fantastic customer service, and when I give you this phone number, it's not like a hotline. Maybe they'll answer the phone. Maybe you'll get some sort of answering system. No, it's Mitchell's cell phone. He'll call you back if he doesn't answer in that moment. It's 225-439-7920. 225-439-7920. Mitchell will get with you, and he'll be with you every step of the way over at Audio Video Security Solutions, whether it's the audio side of things like I'm talking about, whether it's the video side with the television and the home entertainment system, or it's the security system. They can handle all of it over at Audio Video Security Solutions. Our Instagram handle provides some really cool insight on some of the things that they can do. It's AVSS_BR, but always invite you to check them out online, avssla.com. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, the Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscone. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly
On Wednesdays, OTB. Hear from Coach Brian Kelly as LSU training camp rolls right along. Also continue to get ready for Saints preseason game #1. And a little makeup OTB mailbag. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Tune in Friday night for the first of 3 shows previewing all 16 SEC football teams as they prepare for the 2024 season. It's the SEC Radio Network's Battle for Atlanta, Friday night at 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And also 104.5 ESPN and Citizens Bank and Trust are looking for the ultimate tailgate. Snap a pic of your setup and upload it to 1045ESPN.com for a chance to win a $500 Rouse's gift card. Our judges will select a winner on August 29th. It's the ultimate tailgate giveaway from Rouse's Markets, Citizens Bank and Trust, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You tailgate back?
I do from time to time, not every game, but I try to get out there at least a few games a season.
I do miss that.
Yeah, you never can do that probably ever again your whole life on yours.
I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there will be a day where I can tailgate, but I do miss it. Like when I graduated from LSU, I immediately started writing, and I wasn't tailgating then. But then I got out of it in 2014, and then 2014, 15, and 16, I had no LSU obligations whatsoever. I was out of media completely, and I had a tailgate and like basically handled the entire thing. And then everybody like came and like paid me for it, and like it was a lot of work. And like the worst part of that was not like Thursday going to buy everything. It was not Saturday morning setting up. The worst part of it was like an hour and 10 minutes before the game was going to start. Like I want to get in there and like get in the stadium.
Yeah.
And so I got to get everybody to stop getting stuff out of the ice chest. I got to get the tables put up and put down. I got to get the tents like taken down, all that kind of stuff. And like no one wants to help because they just want to keep drinking and like go to the game. And I'm trying to make it happen before we get like to go to the stadium. That was always the worst part. But one of the true things that I did love about the tailgate and having a parking pass that was fairly close to the stadium is after a win, walking back and getting the ice chest back out of the car and then grabbing a real cold boy right out of there after a win. That's excellent stuff. And I do miss a little bit of that because now I'll just do the postgame show. And I'm very excited for the postgame show this year because we have a new studio. It was in the athletic administration building right there in the parking lot. Now up under Tiger Stadium in the south end zone. I got a chance to check that out last week. good digs, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So I miss tailgating a lot, but the pre and post game show is fun, which I enjoy that as well. So that's my thoughts on tailgating. I miss it a little bit. Let's play Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. The New Orleans Pelicans have ended their rights deal with Valley Sports and will now broadcast the majority of their 82 games on local television. The Pels for free. Take it or leave it.
Gotta take it.
I'll take it.
I am in this business where I understand like the broadcast rights and money that changes hands and all that kind of stuff, and I have a reasonable understanding of it, but certainly don't know the ins and outs of the Pelicans agreement with Valley or why they did it. But it seems to me to be unconscionable and very poor business to make your team so difficult to access.
Yep.
I'm in a 10-man group text that basically never stops, and like 3 of them are big Pelicans fans. And they complain about this constantly from November through May. Constantly. I can't find it. I don't know how to do it. The internet's not working. The stream's down. Like, it's just, like, how is that possible? That there is no bigger cultivator of money and fan interest than television. And to screw that up just seems impossible to me, but it appears they had done that for a long time. This is good news. I don't know what the new deal means, and I don't know where the Pels will be, but I'm assuming that those who want to watch the games will be able to do so a little bit more easily, and that should have been a no-brainer from the start.
Yeah, so I read into this a little bit. Valley Sports are in dire straits. Their ownership...
Shocker. No one can watch it.
Exactly. The ownership group that owns Valley Sports are having to cut cost, and apparently they notified the Pelicans they could be one of the teams that they were going to drop to cut their cost, and then they came back with a better offer, but still the Pelicans decided no, because they actually did they had like 7 or 8 games last year that were on local TV, and the amount of viewership compared to Valley was just not even close.
I remember a couple of those.
They had a couple of them, yeah. So
no-brainer.
yeah, it's easy choice for the Pels, and that's going to be good for fans as well. Moving on, Nelly Korda will represent the U.S. in women's golf this week, starting tomorrow. When asked what her Paris goal was, she responded, "Try a crookie, a croissant/cookie combo. Take it or leave it."
I'm going to take it. I think her goals need to be a little loftier than that.
To win a gold,
to get a medal. But I'm all in on a crookie. I love cookies.
Sounds
I love
good.
croissants. And yeah, I'm all in on that. Crookies sound fantastic. I hope Nelly's been able to meet that goal pre-playing, and she can go out there and maybe with a clear mind, a crookie-free mind, she can go out there and play some golf.
Yeah, that's what she's trying not to put too much pressure on herself. So she's like, my goal will just be to eat this pastry treat. Yeah. All right, last one here. Jim Harbaugh was given a 4-year show cause for his violations at Michigan. Take it or leave it.
I'm leaving this. I mean, this is giving Jim Harbaugh a 4-year college football show call.
Like how long is his contract with the Chargers? 4 years?
It basically would be like giving me a show cause or a ban from Northern Idaho.
Yeah.
Like, theoretically, I could go to Northern Idaho, but I have no interest in ever going to Northern Idaho, so this is no punishment. Like, theoretically, Jim Harbaugh could coach college football if he wanted to. He doesn't want to. He's done with that. He had one goal in college football: go to Michigan, his alma mater, and win a national championship. That's it. No more recruiting. No more sleeping over at recruits' house. No more name, image, and likeness sucking up to 17-year-olds who think they deserve millions of dollars. No more transfer portal. His job is to take 50 pros and win football games on Sunday. That's his job for the rest of his football career. I'm quite confident. And this punishment is so dumb. It's not punishing him at all.
It's literally just the NCAA being able to say they did something when in reality they've done nothing.
They did nothing, and Michigan just played this thing like a fiddle all the way to a championship. Yeah, we'll suspend Harbaugh for these games that don't matter, and these games that don't matter, and the ones that do matter, we'll take him back. And now he's supposed to be in trouble, but he's gone, so we're not going to get anybody in trouble. It's just a whole bunch of nothing as usual. I've come to this conclusion: the only program in NCAA history that got in trouble was LSU basketball.
Yeah, well, I mean, recently, I guess.
And maybe a stretch. Maybe
SMU, yeah, they got in trouble a little bit.
Tongue in cheek there, but yeah. I'm a little bitter. I enjoyed my Austin basketball for a short period of time, and I'm hopeful that comes back in a couple of months. I'm hopeful that comes back in a couple of months, but LSU basketball did get in trouble. Michigan football, no.
Nope.
Did not get in trouble. So that's it here for a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Open things up talking about the Saints and their potential to sign Justin Simmons to a free agent contract. I'm sure Matt will have much more on that. We talked about it at 1 o'clock, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, Hunt on Saints. J.D. Pickell going to join us every Wednesday moving forward throughout football season. He was with us at 1:15. We talked a lot of Big Ten with J.D. It was What If Wednesday. Matthew Bruni at 1:45. He was at LSU football practice this morning, as was Matthew Moscona, and he'll probably talk about that on his show a little bit later. But from Bruni's perspective, you can check us out on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. 2 o'clock, we did some Meet the Freshmen. Kylan Billiot and Demarion Johnson were our freshmen today. That is half of the freshmen we have now identified on this LSU team. We'll keep that rolling until we have talked about them all. Khaleke Lockett is headed to Texas. What does that mean for LSU wide receiver recruiting? Ashton Larson got a big honor from his Cape Cod League team, the MVP offensively for them. That's great for him. And Sadiq Charles, former LSU left tackle, retired today from his career with the Houston Texans. The Tennessee Titans, even though he's going to be a starter. Then Matthew Paris joined us from Irvine to talk a little bit of Saints. If you missed any of that, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. You can always find us, and I give you those 2 YouTube channels each and every day, and they're as relevant as ever now because the Saints and LSU are practicing. Hunt on LSU, Hunt on Saints on YouTube. Tigers taking a day off tomorrow, but we got a lot to talk about. We will certainly do a lot of that with Luke Johnson. And Matt's about to drive you home on AFR. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. Been listening to a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.